The warzone known as the Kethra Expanse had swallowed civilizations before. It was a graveyard dressed up as a battlefield, 3 stellar systems crushed together by ancient gravitational violence, their debris fields laced with radiation pockets, collapsed jump corridors, and the silent wreckage of 17 species who had once believed they were the apex of known space. The Expanse had no rules. It respected no treaties. It had one language: superior firepower. Admiral Varek of the Dorak hegemony understood this fluently. He stood at the command bridge of the Eternal Conquest, flagship of the hegemony's 4th Warzone fleet, and surveyed the tactical display with the calm confidence of a predator who had never met anything faster than itself. The Dorak had held the Kethra Expanse for 62 standard cycles. 62 cycles of unchallenged dominance. Every challenger had been dismantled, catalogued, and forgotten. The latest intelligence report glowed on his secondary screen. Humanity. A species barely 4 centuries into deep space travel. Their economy was primitive. Their biology was fragile: no natural armor plating, no venom glands, no enhanced sensory clusters. They breathed oxygen, of all things, and required sleep cycles to function. Varek had laughed when the report first crossed his desk. He was not laughing now. Admiral. His tactical officer's voice carried an unusual tremor. Long-range sensors are picking up signatures. Unclassified configuration. 17, no, correction, 31 vessels. They are crossing into the Expanse through Corridor 9. Varek turned slowly. Corridor 9 is collapsed. No vessel can transit Corridor 9. They just did, sir. He stepped toward the sensor array himself. The display was not malfunctioning. 31 vessels, each one larger than anything his intelligence reports had assigned to humanity's naval inventory, were emerging from what should have been an impassable debris corridor, moving in a formation that his tactical AI was struggling to classify. Not a standard attack wedge. Not a defensive screen. Something else. Something his system had no historical template for. Hail them, Varek ordered. Standard hegemony frequency. Demand identification and intent. Silence. Not calm silence, the channel was open. He could hear the carrier signal. They simply did not respond. Try the universal diplomatic band. Still nothing. Varek felt the first ghost of something he had not experienced in decades. He catalogued the sensation carefully, the way a scientist might examine an unfamiliar specimen, and concluded it was the early architecture of concern. Battle stations, he said quietly. All ships form on the Eternal Conquest. Weapons to stand by. The hegemony's 4th Warzone fleet was not a small force. 60 vessels of varying class, veterans of the Expanse's countless territorial skirmishes. They had suppressed the Vethani Collective. They had broken the Scarith siege. They had watched 3 separate rebellions collapse under hegemony fire and simply moved on to the next task. Varek's crew did not know fear in the operational sense. They knew procedure. They knew overwhelming response. They formed their battle line. 30 seconds of silence. Then the human fleet moved. Fleet Commander Kaya did not give the order with any particular drama. She sat at the center of the Unyielding's command deck, her coffee, actual brewed coffee from the ship's agricultural bay, a small vanity she allowed herself, growing cold in her right hand, and said 3 words into her headset. All ships. Execute. That was it. No speech. No rallying cry. No acknowledgement of the historical weight of what was about to happen. Kaya had been in the room when the strategic planners had debated this mission for 11 hours. She had read every intelligence file. She had run every simulation herself, twice, at 0300 hours when the rest of the command staff had gone to sleep. She knew exactly what the Doric fleet was and what it could do. She also knew exactly what her fleet was. The Unyielding and her 30 companions, were not the ships humanity had been building 40 years ago. They were not even the ships humanity had been building 20 years ago. They were the product of 2 decades of accelerated engineering born from a single, galvanizing truth that the hegemony had never bothered to understand about humans: when you hurt them badly enough, they do not retreat. They go quiet. They go to work. And then they come back. The Dorak had raided 4 human colonies 8 years ago. They had taken 17,000 people. They had transmitted footage of the process to humanity as what Varek himself had called, in his after-action report, a demonstration of consequence. 8 years. Humans had spent 8 years in consequence. The first salvo from the human fleet struck the hegemony's left wing before Varek's weapons officers had finished acquiring targets. Not because the humans were lucky. Because the human targeting systems had been running acquisition calculations for the past 6 minutes using passive sensor sweeps that the Dorak's electronic countermeasures had not been designed to detect. Because no one had told the Dorak's engineers to design against that particular approach. No one had done it before. There was no precedent for it. The humans had developed it in a research bay on a colony world and quietly integrated it into every vessel in the fleet without publishing a single paper, filing a single patent, or breathing a word of it to anyone outside the program. 3 hegemony destroyers vanished in the first 4 seconds. Not damaged. Vanished. The human weapons were firing phase disruption charges of a yield that Varek's damage assessment AI simply returned as error, outside modeled parameters. Shields, his tactical officer began. Are not going to hold, Kaya said from across the void, her voice finally coming through on the hegemony channel she had been monitoring in silence this entire time. Admiral Varek. I know your name. I know your ship. I know your fleet disposition and I know your emergency retreat vectors. I want you to understand that before we continue. Varek gripped the edge of his command console. You will identify yourself. Fleet Commander Kaya. Human Expeditionary Vanguard. A pause. Not a hesitant pause. A deliberate one. The pause of someone who has decided exactly how much time to spend on a conversation. You took 17,000 of my people. I have spent 8 years building the reply. The second salvo was already in transit before she finished speaking. This one hit the hegemony's command formation directly. Not the Eternal Conquest, not yet, but the escort vessels around it, the tactical coordination ships that formed the distributed intelligence network of the Dorak battle doctrine. One by one, systematically, with a precision that bordered on contemptuous, the human fleet disassembled the hegemony's ability to think as a unified body. Varek had never experienced this. In every battle he had ever fought, there was a moment when the enemy revealed their strategy and he could adapt. This felt different. This felt like being read. They're targeting our coordination lattice, his tactical officer said, voice now stripped of all professional calm. They knew our doctrine. They. Of course they did, Varek said, almost to himself. He had studied humanity for exactly as long as the intelligence report had required. A week, perhaps. He had read about their biology, their politics, their resource capacity. He had not considered that they might have spent 8 years studying him. I am opening a full channel, he announced. His pride was not gone. But his calculation was excellent, and his calculation was telling him something very clearly. Commander Kaya. Admiral. You have made your point. I have not, she said. No anger in it. No satisfaction either. Just fact, delivered the way an engineer delivers a load-bearing measurement. I came here to make 17,000 points. I'm 11 minutes into it. But I'm willing to discuss an alternative. Varek closed his eyes for exactly 1 second. Then he opened them. What are your terms? Return of all surviving captives. Full hegemony withdrawal from the Kethra expanse. Reparations scheduled to be negotiated in your territory, in person, with your Hegemony Council, within 30 days. She paused again. And an apology. On record. Broadcast on every Hegemony channel. Because I want every species watching you, every species considering whether to take something from us, to understand what the reply looks like. It was not the terms that settled it for Varric. He had faced difficult terms before. It was the tone. The absolute, geological certainty of it. Not bravado. Not rage. Just the specific quiet of someone who has done the math and confirmed the answer and is now simply waiting for the universe to catch up to what they already know. He had 31 ships that had come through an impassable corridor and dismantled a third of his fleet in 11 minutes without taking a single confirmed casualty. He thought about the 8 years of silence. He thought about what an entire species had built inside that silence. Agreed, Admiral Varric said. Fleet Commander Kea set her coffee down. Still warm enough. All ships hold position, she said into her headset. Begin recovery protocols. She leaned back in her chair and looked out at the debris field that had, 20 minutes ago, been the confident leading edge of the Doric hegemony's most feared fleet. No speech. No celebrating. There were 17,000 people waiting to come home. She had work to do.